Our sportsNOLA.com trivia question, Drew Brees and Willie Snead each passed for touchdowns in the Rams game since Coach Payton's arrival. How many different Saints have thrown touchdown passes? We're going with Snead, Mark Burnell, Luke McCown. Anybody else? Anybody? The answer is Jamie Martin. Oh, my goodness.
Man.
You talk about a trick question. Oh, wow.
I'd have lost his house.
Never would have come up with that.
Never.
No chance. We're done. I get most of these right.
Wow.
I got stoned.
Me too.
On this one. I'm
Me
done.
too.
Fried. Kaput. See you later. It is time now for our hot seat segment where we place Brian Ellie Walsh on the hot seat with a hot topic of the day. None hotter than the news that came out of Baton Rouge on Saturday morning when Joe Oliva announced his new head coach. This guy, Coach O, Bebe, Ed Orgeron, promoted from interim head coach to permanent head coach. Question: did LSU make the right choice in hiring Ed Orgeron? Brian, you get first crack.
As always, thank you, Dr. Trahan. And I'll tell you what, 7 games ago, I may not say what I'm about to say, but at this stage, at this point of the LSU season and the way the coaching search developed and panned out, I think I was so happy that they ended up settling on Coach O. And here's why. Is one, this is as much as you're trying to get the best coach to win a national championship here, the most important thing is you've got to do what is right for your university. You've got to make a smart business decision. And when Jimbo Fisher over in Tallahassee says he wants $7.5 million a year, adios amigo, they did the right thing. When Tom Herman and Trace Armstrong, his representative, start playing Texas against LSU and they want to drive up this salary and stuff like that, again, you know what? Don't use LSU as a pawn to get more money for Tom Herman. I think it was a wonderful decision on the part of Joe Oliva and the search committee and LSU in general. And I'll tell you what, Eddie O is a perfect guy for this job in my opinion because one, he said it from the heart in his acceptance speech. This guy, he knows all about LSU. He knows what makes it tick. He's from this area. He knows how important the national championships are, but he knows what LSU football means, and I think that is so important when you get a guy to take over your program. If he brings in a Lane Kiffin or someone like that to run his offense, they're going to do everything in their power to keep Dave Aranda, and that's a great keep there, okay? Listen, they're set, but Ed Orgeron's going to be judged solely on how he does against Alabama. That's the bottom line. Great hire, though.
Yeah, well, I agree with you there. I think that was a great hire. I wanted him. I mean, I didn't really care for Herman. I know Herman was going to Texas all the while, so he shouldn't have never tried to use LSU over because he got the Texas job 3 hours after they fired that he had the job. So it just didn't make no sense to try to use LA. Jimbo, he wasn't going to leave Tallahassee. So they hired the right guy. He's going to come up with a good offensive coach who to help him out, and everything else will fall into place because he knows defense and he can work with the defense. So I think from now on, all they got to do is recruit some great players, and LSU will be back on top.
Well, I was just so happy. I was so happy to see that LSU not be used to feather someone else's nest, okay? I'm glad that they made the quick decision when they did. And you know what? Tom Herman's a great young coach. He's a hot commodity right now. Let him go to Texas, okay? LSU can stand on its own merit. Ed Orgeron is going to do a good job, provided he wins the important games. He already proved that he can beat Arkansas and A&M, and that's 2, and Ole Miss. Okay, those are 3 teams that have given Les Miles troubles in the past, so they got to beat Alabama.
A&M never gave Les Miles trouble.
And then you didn't have to give him all that money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You in a budget
right,
you can afford him as a $3 million budget. You didn't have to go up to $7 or $8 million that these coaches are trying to get. So LSU in a good position with him.
What say you?
I say you guys have made some very good points, obviously, and you get a hometown discount. You start there. So you saved a lot of money considering you had to pay off Les Miles. You get a guy that has been everywhere. He's coached at Nichols, McNeese State, Northwestern State, the New Orleans Saints. LSU, obviously, played at South Lafourche, grew up in La Rose. So he's Louisiana born and bred. The negatives are obvious. His losing record as a head coach at Ole Miss, he was 10-25. I did a few Ole Miss games for Comcast when he was the head coach there. And in his last year at Ole Miss, he went 0-8 in the SEC, 3-21 in the SEC throughout the course of his stay. This is a different time and place, and it's a different place, and that's the most important thing. He took over for David Cutcliffe at Ole Miss, wasn't able to stem the tide, and then, of course, and I say that literally, stem the tide, among other things, because that's what he's going to have to do at LSU to be judged ultimately as being a very successful coach, but it's been an albatross around the necks of many LSU coaches. So what were the choices? Jimbo said no. Herman tried to play them, so you moved on. Was Fuente a better choice? Was Fedora a better choice? These are guys that have some promise. Fedora's had some winning seasons at Southern Miss and North Carolina, but nothing special. Fuente's a very bright mind and perhaps has a great future, but again, was that an easy sell? I don't think so. When given the circumstances as to who was available, they made the right move given the circumstances. It's not the number one guy or the ideal guy, but sometimes it doesn't have to be successful. Are there some reasons to be skeptical? Yes, I've alliterated some of those. The other would be an emotional coach. You can't coach with emotion every week and be a rah-rah guy and expect your players to play at that high pitch every single week. But I do believe Ed Orgeron's matured and is really a different guy. Here's the number one reason I think he'll be successful, if he's successful, because he hires very good coaches and he lets them do their jobs. Les Miles micromanaged the situation way too much, and that's never going to work at any level. Surround yourself with the best people possible and allow them to do their jobs. I think Orgeron is taking that approach. I think he understands this. I think history has served him well. I think losing has served him well, which has prepared him very well to win at LSU, although the schedule is really tough next year. Back in just a moment to talk college football at length as Sports NOLA TV continues.